Alright guys, welcome back to another Fortnite video, and in this one, it is time to talk about some theories. Some Season 8 theories, sort of ending of Season 7, but overall just some crazy fun theories overall. And I'm talking about like the possibility of maybe getting lava areas. We're also going to be revisiting the underwater theory with some new stuff towards that. Just a bunch of stuff overall, because as you guys may have known, recently we've been getting a bunch of stuff like earthquakes happening on the map, the prisoner escaping and things to do with that. So I thought this would be the perfect time to look at those new clues that we've been given by Epic Games and come up with some fun theories of what may happen in the future of the story. So yeah guys, should be a ton of fun, but real quick before we get into it, I have a cool announcement for you guys. I just released some new merch on my merch shop. They are the different mashup designs. We have two different options. The one that is sort of more of a pink design is a one-sided print on a t-shirt with a big design on the front, and then the other option is the more mint design, and unlike the first one, this one has a print on both sides with the smaller logo on the front and then the bigger mint design on the back of a long sleeve shirt. I think they turned out really cool, so if you guys want to check that out, the link will be down below in the description. But yeah guys, be sure to hit that like button down below if you are hyped for Season 8. It is just around the corner, and also comment what has been your favorite season so far. All the way from Season 1 through Season 7, which do you think is the best? So comment that down below. I'm really curious to see like which ones you guys like most. But yeah guys, let's just go ahead and jump right into it here. We have a bunch of clues and theories to go over, so let's just start it off strong and talk about one of the bigger things before we get into like the earthquake stuff and things like that. And also guys, keep in mind that these theories are just theories, so they aren't confirmed quite yet, but I still think some of them are likely. But one of the biggest things that we have to highlight, a bunch of things that have been surrounding this character, the prisoner. And there's also some clues with him that you may have not even noticed. But the prisoner himself, I believe, is really important to the story. So first of all, starting it off here, who even is the prisoner? That's an important question to ask, and we actually got some clues that can help us at least get a better idea of who he is and what he is doing here. And that also leads us into the important theories of like the lava and maybe the underwater stuff as well. So first of all, the biggest part of the prisoner is obviously that he was the prisoner. He was, you know, chained up in the dungeon of the Ice King's castle. But why exactly was he chained up there? I mean, it seems pretty obvious that he was like an enemy maybe of the Ice King, but that may not be like exactly the case. If you take a look at a clue that is hidden within the Ice King's castle, you go to this one room right here with the round table with 5 chairs around it. Now there's something I want to point out here, and that is this tipped over chair right here. Now first of all, big thanks to TheLlamaSir on Reddit for pointing this out, but if you take a look at this chair and specifically this symbol that is on the chair and also at the table, you will see that it looks quite a bit like a flame. And who do we know has a fairly decent connection to like flames or heat or stuff like that? The prisoner. That is right guys, so the fact that this chair is tipped over, it looks like he stormed out of the room, like he had a disagreement with the Ice King, so he quickly got up, knocked over his chair, and left. But then we know later that the Ice King imprisoned him, which shows us that the prisoner is more than likely a good guy, or at least he disagrees with the Ice King trying to take over the map and cover everything in snow and things like that. However, I mean, you do have to take note of that at one point he was working with the Ice King. I mean, he was at the table in the first place, and also I would assume that the spots are maybe for the Ice King and the Ice Queen. And then we've also talked about this before, how maybe the other two left over would probably be Valkyrie and Ragnarok. That was a separate theory, so that one's still up in the air. But yeah, we're getting off track. So it seems like he is on our side, so that's an important thing I wanted to bring up. Now the other important thing about the prisoner is the fact that he does seem to have like fire powers. We more specifically got to see this for sure with the recent stage 3 style for the prisoner. Now if you need to know how to unlock that, it is my previous video on the channel. It'll be linked at the end as a card. But yeah, if you take a look at this stage, it's very clear that the prisoner has those, you know, probably fire, lava, whatever type powers, because his arm is literally like, looks like it has lava or fire or whatever inside of it. It's glowing red. So it would definitely make sense that he has some sort of, you know, fire or heat powers, which would also make sense that that's how he was able to melt part of the Ice King's castle and escape. Remember, he was inside like a big iceberg, and he's the only one that really could have melted it. There's nothing else that would have really made sense. On top of that, we also see in stage 1 that he's still covered in ice, and then he moves on through stage 2, that ice melts off, and then in stage 3, again, we see that whatever lava on his arm. Now, why is that important? Well, I do think it has a connection to the earthquakes and stuff like that, and the possibility of us getting lava areas, but there's something else we need to cover real quick first, and that is the fact that the prisoner seems to be melting the ice around the map, or more so the snow. With that event, we saw the Ice King cover the entire map in snow, and then as soon as the prisoner prisoner is released, that snow starts to recede back to where it was at the start of the season. Now, obviously, the timing lines up almost perfectly that the prisoner would be the reason for that snow melting, so it definitely is important to point out again that the prisoner seems to be against the Ice King and fighting back against him. Now, that does lead me into something else that's very, very important, but first of all, I want to talk about the earthquakes. These are definitely probably one of the biggest clues that we've had in a long time, except for like the prisoner himself, but yeah, the earthquakes that have been happening in game quite a bit. So if you don't know what the earthquakes are, I think they happen randomly. I actually had two happen to me recently, and they were fairly close together, so I think they're like kind of random. I don't know for sure, but yeah, there's been earthquakes happening in game, and like here's an example of one that happened to me while I was just playing in a game normally. Your screen starts to shake a bit when one happens. I think there also might be like a sound of an earthquake, but yeah, it's very clearly an earthquake. So yeah, that is definitely something super interesting that we need to take note of, and the first of which is that this could possibly lead to lava areas on the map. And this right here is just a concept of if that were to happen, what I think it would look like. So it's not official, but I do think something like this could be likely. Now, there's two main things that I think point towards this, but the first of which is just that it could make sense since earthquakes, you know, if they continue to happen like this, and there's been a bunch of them, but it's possible that they could end up splitting pieces of the map, like splitting open. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that like if part of the map splits open that there'd be lava underneath it. I mean, I don't believe that's exactly how earthquakes work. I mean, I'm not an expert on earthquakes, but if there are earthquakes near like maybe volcanoes, then it's a possibility, at least like fictionally it could be done. And if you take a look at over here at this portion of the map, take a look like outside of our island and take a look at the areas surrounding it. This mountain over here, it's possible maybe this could be a volcano. It's something they could definitely do, and then they could add lava to the map. It would make a bit more sense. Now, that theory maybe is a little bit far-fetched, but I think earthquakes and lava could make sense, especially when you take into account that these earthquakes seem to be caused by the prisoner suddenly heating up portions of the map to get rid of the snow. And if he has lava on his arm, and if these earthquakes lead to fault lines in the map and like pieces opening up, I mean, it could definitely make sense that we could see some lava areas. You gotta admit, that would definitely be a lot of fun for Season 8 to see some lava areas, so I'm hoping that is indeed the case. However, on the opposite side of that is another theory that I have that could also be caused by the prisoner, you know, heating up the map. Now, you may know where I'm going with this, and I kind of talked about it a little bit in a previous theory video. If you want to check that out, I'll link it down below in the description. So I won't go into like too much detail about it, but I think with these recent events of the prisoner coming back and melting a bunch of the snow, I think this is again a possibility. So I want to re-go over some of those important things and how they may connect to some of these more recent things. Now, what am I talking about here? Well, I am talking about the possibility of like large water areas of the map, or like maybe underwater areas of the map. And here's a concept I made of that. Again, it's not official, it is just a concept, but it helps to like visualize what I'm kind of talking about here. But again, since the prisoner is heating up the map and already melted so much of the snow that was covering the map, wouldn't it make sense that he could also melt like a bigger portion of the iceberg biome? I mean, then again, the Ice King is technically still around, but if they battle out and the prisoner wins, then he could melt a bunch of the iceberg biome. I talked about it a little bit before, but like the iceberg biome takes up a decent part of the map, almost a full fourth of the map, and I would think eventually some of that has to shrink if they want to continue to add things to the map over the next few seasons. So again, it's possible the Ice King is holding back the prisoner from fully melting this area, but if he continues to melt a bunch of it, that ice melting into water has to go somewhere, so it would make sense that we could see some underwater areas on the map. And then maybe you could swim through those, I don't know, again, that's just a theory, but it would make sense, wouldn't it? On top of that, highlighting another important clue that we went over in that previous video of the underwater theory, but putting it together with some of this recent stuff, take a look at this submarine over here. Again, we talked about it, but it's just really out of place. I mean, a submarine on top of this thing of ice right here, and if you take a look at the submarine, it's very detailed, but it just seems, again, really out of place, and a submarine is known for going underwater. So could this be pointing towards some underwater thing coming into the game soon? I don't know, but again, coupling that with how the prisoner has been melting a bunch of the snow, and if he continues to melt things, it would make sense. So yeah, that is another theory that I have, and I would definitely think that would be a lot of fun as well. So yeah, guys, those are my two main theories, but there's also one other thing I want to talk about real quick, and that is the dragon eggs. Now, these, I think it's a little bit odd that nothing has happened quite yet. I mean, you had these revealed when the ice started to melt built inside of the dungeon, and it's pretty clear that they seem to be dragon eggs, especially when you like look at them and there seems to be a silhouette of what seems to be a dragon. But again, we haven't had anything happen that could make sense of what exactly these are. So who knows, maybe we won't see anything, or maybe one other theory I had that could be a possibility, could these eggs be for the type of dragon that is the Frostwing glider? If you take a look at that glider, it's very clearly like an ice dragon. But if that is indeed the case, then that could help connect Valkyrie and Ragnarok again to the Ice King and the Ice Queen, and that would just make this overall theory even more interesting. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more fun stuff coming out on the channel soon. On top of that, you can check out some of my previous videos here, such as on the left, going over how to get the Prisoner Stage 3 and also some update news, as well as stuff about the Share the Love event, and then on the right, my Week 10 Challenges guide. But other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one.